tariffs coming? Is it 4 o'clock?
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock Eastern.
Okay,
yeah.
So our man, Matt Murphy, will lead the program with Trump announcing to the world that they owe us $1 bazillion and they're going to pay us back. That's what I hear. So we'll see. I like how they say sweeping tariffs. Or not. Because that's also another side of it. Because you never know with Trump. They're still negotiating, from what I understand, behind closed doors. Last night, somebody said earlier, you talk about Wisconsin and they lost that race. You don't talk about Florida. I did talk about Florida. Talked about Florida. Said they won those races. They didn't win them as handily as I think they wanted to. Even DeSantis came out and said they underperformed. That was not good, but they held on to those seats as you would expect them to do. I mean, Trump won one of the seats Mike Waltz's seats by 33, and Gates's was 68. So you would expect them to win it, but it was not as they won nicely, but definitely cooled off. And it's also special elections. I mean, people really get up for a special election, but they did win those. And that's a good thing. And, voter ID, which I'm always fascinated by voter ID. Like people well, I can't have voter ID because it's racist. I'm like, what? Well, no. Tell me how it's because voter ID is racist. Well, how's it racist? Because. No, just tell me. Say it out loud. Because they don't want to say it out loud. Whenever you hit them with that, why is it? They never want to tell you out loud, really, why they think it's racist. That's just something they parrot and hear, because if they had to say it out loud, they would realize what they're saying is very racist. And so they don't say it. But yeah, that one by 20 points. Think about that. By 20 points. So the liberal Supreme Court, Crawford, wins in Wisconsin, but voter ID wins by 20 points. But it's racist. Why is it racist again? I mean, just, they'll never tell you. Because if you're asking them why it's racist, they have to say out loud because, and let's be real, they're not talking about anything other than black Americans. Because they can't get an ID, and that's the biggest lie in the world. This is the biggest lie in the world. Have you ever seen, I forget his name, Army, he goes down to New York and he asks all the people about voter, do you have ID? And all the white people on college campus, asking people like that for ID is bad. Then he goes to an area that's predominantly black. They're like, yeah, we all got IDs. The DMV's right there. You can go get it.
Why would we not have IDs?
Yeah, it's like a law.
We're normal people. We get IDs just like everybody else does.
They make it seem like, it's like when Kathy Hochul's like, they don't know how to use a computer.
It's just, they embarrass themselves when they say stuff like that.
So stupid. And that's why they're doing so well in the polls. For all the talk of Trump's down to 49% and Trump's struggling here and the Congress sucks. We all know that. Like Congress is, and that includes both sides of it. But the Democrats are setting new lows that are spectacular.
Holy Toledo.
Which, by the way, Harry Anton here is hilarious. And he puts on this accent, this New Yorker accent halfway through that's spectacular.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
You think these numbers are bad? Hey, Bill, you think these numbers is bad? These numbers is going to get worse.
Oh, yeah.
These numbers is going to get a lot worse.
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this. 77% should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C. 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say this should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, can get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply put not doing so.
Well, it's because they're not. And you know what? It shouldn't be opposing Donald Trump. If there's things that you want them to oppose, it should be, why aren't you trying to make it better for America? Because whenever I hear politicians talk, rarely is it about Americans and America. For the most part, when they're talking about how they should do this for themselves, how they should do this. It's about the politics. And like I said, it is the party first, the politician second, and the people third. If I was a Democrat, I would have absolutely want to be part of Doge. I would have been there inside and out saying, all right, well, why are you cutting this? Why are you doing this? But see, one of the things they talked about is it's the all or nothing thing that people now live by. And that's part of the tribe. They'll be happy with 100% of nothing because I'm principled. No, you're listening to a small group of people on the internet. What is the average person who's part of the exhausted majority that leans a little right or a little left, who works all day, busts his butt, has a family, she's working 2 jobs? What do they say about some of this stuff? That's what you should care about, not what some 24-year-old is freaking out about on the internet and some influencer.
Sometimes they're just some poll numbers that just jump off the screen at me. Let's take a look. Allow judges to review Trump's policies. Look at this. Overall, 77% say yes, compared to 23% that say no. Among Republicans, it is a majority, but it's just 56%. Look at this. 44% say no, judges do not have the right to review Trump's policies. That is an outstanding number to me. I never thought I would see it.
But you see it now. Judges shouldn't have the right. No. And that's the frustrating thing is look, if we decide to take the judges out across the board, all right, they don't matter outside of the Supreme Court. That's going to be an interesting thing because what happens when the other side gets in? Because that's what eventually you're not always going to be in charge. And so we have these protections for a reason. And for those of you out there who say, well, you know, the courts are all rigged. Well, they judge shop. Everybody judge shops. There's a reason they're flying all these people to Louisiana that they're picking up for immigration. There's a reason for that. You're judge shopping. That's what you want to do. You go, you judge shop. Trump's got more people appointed to the bench than Biden does. But you judge shop, and in big cases, it's eventually going to get to the place that is going to decide it. And when Trump or Biden or anybody's involved, for the most part, that's going to be the Supreme Court.
But look at the majority of Republicans. 59% support this idea of impeaching judges who rule against Donald Trump. So Elon Musk, in this particular case, is with the majority of the Republicans. Again, this is poll numbers. I wouldn't believe them unless I saw them.
But you see him now, sir. You see him now. Tariffs today. I'm very excited. We talked a little bit about it. There's going to be he's in the Rose Garden. He begs your pardon. He's never promised you a Rose Garden. But if he did, he'd tariff it, especially if it came from somewhere else.
50% tariff on the Rose Garden.
You guys owe me 50% more petals. You guys hear me? So he's
no thorns.
No more thorns. Thorn free. Those cost more. So that's going to happen today. And I want to see, we're hearing 20% across the board. I don't know. And the other thing is we have no idea what countries are involved in this, what countries aren't involved in this. I don't know how long they're going to last. Are they really for negotiations? I think some of these are going to be a little bit longer. I don't think everything's going to be 20% across the board. These are all things that, we're going to find out like everybody else later on. And the question is going to be can all the stuff that they're talking about actually happen? Are we going to bring back a bunch of manufacturing? Are we going to make a ton of money off of tariffs? Those kind of things. This is Mick Mulvaney. He used to work with the president, chief of staff at one point in time, talking about a piece he wrote today.
Basically, we import about $3 trillion worth of stuff to generate $600 billion a year. You have to have a 20% tariff on everything. And that math adds up until economics and human behavior kicks in, which is what the Trump administration is counting on, is for people to stop importing stuff and to start buying stuff that is made here. They're also trying to encourage people, businesses, to set up manufacturing here so that we can buy stuff made here. And the more stuff you buy from here in the United States, as opposed to, say, from China, the tariff money goes down. So the point of the article, my point now, is you can't have it both ways. You can't say that tariffs are going to generate a huge number of American jobs and reinvigorate American manufacturing and say it's going to generate $6 trillion worth of revenue. Those two things are mutually impossible, and that's why I wrote the piece. I think the Trump administration is, especially Peter Navarro, overpromising and going to underdeliver. There's no way that tariffs will be able to do both of the things that the administration is talking about.
You know what's interesting is who's on the chopping block. So Peter Navarro is not really part of the administration, but is whispering in the ear. You've got Ludnick, who is, and this is kind of championing it, if this thing was to go south, which one of them takes takes the fall? Which one of them is going to be the one that pays the price? Because somebody would. And that's a big if, because I don't know how long these are going to last. By the time Belle and I walk out to our cars, to my feet, because I walk here, by the time we get to wherever we're going, after the show is over, Trump could have instituted and pulled back all of the tariffs. Or said, we decided not to do it. April Fools, I didn't want to do it on the 1st because the 2nd's better. You guys never saw it coming. Which would kind of be like him. It's just a smidge. So we're going to find out what it looks like at 3 o'clock, and Matt's going to have all the stuff. And it is, it's a lot going on. And this affects us because of the economy. And I've been saying it for a long time. Our consumption, when we became a price-based society, it changed everything. We export ideas. We import cheap goods. And that's, whether people want to hear that or not, until we change. Like anything, until you decide you've had enough and you're willing to spend more, then that's a situation where you're going to find out that we're still going to want cheap goods, and we can't go months and months and years waiting for manufacturing or something to come back. One of the things, though, that is an absolute must is when Trump's out there, he's also got to talk about the fact that we're rolling back a ton of these regulations that are over-regulations. It's not about having no regulations. It's about having smart regulations, which is going to help make it a little bit easier for us. But when we think everything's about, somebody said earlier, you're for slave labor. No, the reality is we like cheap goods because we don't see a ton of rise in our salaries. For a lot of people out there, they don't. It's stagnant. And it goes up a little bit here and a little bit there. And as inflation has outgained it, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're living off your credit cards. So price matters at that point in time, no doubt. But also, we're competing. It's not just about wage. You're competing with the cost of everything from insurance to the taxes they pay to the OSHA and all of this other stuff, regulation wise, that other countries don't have to. And that includes the fact that you think about trying to build something here today. As we went over that thing the other day with Ezra Klein talking about how hard it is to get rural internet. Think about trying to build a factory. How hard that would be. Trying to reimpose. That's why nobody wants, you could go now to the Gulf Coast and purchase a refinery. Probably pretty cheap. But to retrofit it and do all the things that you needed to do to make it worth it, it's just not worth it. So that's part of the problem, too. It's not just salary alone and slave labor. It's a lot of other things that we pay and look after that other countries just don't. So we're hamstrung in that nature. But on the other side of it, our dollar goes so much further, and that's why the goods that we like to consume, they're cheap.